What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie, and today we have an extremely exciting video because we're going to be doing a preview and prediction of this week's matchup between the number 13 Michigan Wolverines and their rivals, the Michigan State Spartans. If you guys like today's video, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on the game down in the comment section below, and subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more previews and prediction videos just like these, and enjoy the video. Before we get too far into it, let's take a look at the changes in the AP polls for this week. After a very disappointing loss last week against Rutgers, Michigan State still remains unranked. And after a very impressive win over 21 Minnesota last week, Michigan is up 5 spots in the rankings and are currently coming into this game as the number 13 overall. This will be the 113th all-time meeting of this very historical matchup in a series that Michigan has a lead with the record of 71, 36, and 5. Michigan has won the past 2 meetings between these two programs, with the last one being their 44-10 victory last year in Ann Arbor. A little bit of an interesting fact is this will be Michigan's 20th all-time game on Halloween on October 31st, in which they are 14-4-1 on Halloween games. Let's start with Michigan, and Michigan comes into this game with a 1-0 record after a very impressive 49-24 victory over number 21 Minnesota last week. Let's do a quick game summary of this game, and we have to start with Joe Milton, Michigan's new quarterback, and he played absolutely fantastic in his debut. He passed 15 for 22 for 225 yards. He had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, no interceptions. He was a little bit inaccurate on his deep balls. The timing, I think, overall between him and the receivers was a little off, especially on the deep balls, but overall a very impressive, fantastic performance by Joe Milton, and I'm really excited to see how he can continue to improve this week against Michigan State. The biggest offensive plays of the game, though, came from Michigan's backfield. Haskins and Charbonnet combined for 152 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Zach Charbonnet had a nice 70-yard run, and Haskins had a nice 66-yard run himself. Both of these runs marked career highs for each of the two players in the longest run by a Wolverine since 2017. What's really interesting is that 12 players on the offense either had a catch or carried the ball, and I think Ronnie Bell was the only player with over 2 catches in the game. So Michigan is looking very deep. They can beat you in a lot of different ways, and I'm excited to see that once again this weekend. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball now, and they were really impressive as well, especially when you consider how many new faces you saw on the defense. Some of the veterans really stepped up when you look at guys like Kwity Paye, Carlo Kemp. I really liked the way the Wolverines defense played last weekend. Couple fun facts here. The scoop and score by Donovan Jeter was the first by a Wolverine defender since 2017. Michael Barrett was exceptional. He had 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss, as well as a fumble recovery. The big stat that I want to point out is that the Golden Gophers only went 1 for 9 on 3rd and 9 or longer situations. So the Wolverines defense is putting themselves in very good situations, and they're getting themselves off the field. The only thing I would say is that the Wolverines have to improve when they're playing in man. They got beat a couple times on deep balls, as well as got a bunch of penalties on some of those deep balls as well, with the pass interference penalties. But other than that, the Wolverines were really solid. Again, new faces on the defense, so I'm sure all of that's going to improve as the season continues to go on. Let's flip over to the Spartans now, and they come into this game with an 0-1 record after an extremely disappointing Week 1 loss against the Rutgers by a score of 38-27. Let's take a look at why this game went the way it did for the Spartans by doing a quick game summary. And we have to start with Lombardi. He was solid, not terrific. He passed 31 for 43, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. And as we're going to get to in a second, turnovers were the big problem this week for the Spartans. Throughout the game, Michigan State really struggled to run the ball. Simmons had 14 carries for only 43 yards. The Spartans in general ran the ball a total of 39 times for only 50 combined yards. Before we get to the negatives, Jaden Reed led the way offensively. He had 11 receptions for 128 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. On to the negatives now. As I was mentioning before, Michigan State really got bitten by the turnovers. They had 7 total turnovers. Beside the 2 interceptions, they had 6 fumbles, 5 of the fumbles which they actually lost. And I mean, there's no other way to put it besides you're not winning a football game when you turn the ball over 7 times. I think this is a real issue for Michigan State. Obviously, they're going to have to cut down the 7 turnovers, but I think Michigan's defense looked a lot better in the second half of the game against Minnesota, and I think this is a defense that's only going to get better as they continue to get onto the field, so we'll see what Michigan State can do come this weekend. Before we get into my predictions and the betting lines, we're just going to do some of the betting trends. If you're new to the channel or you haven't watched some of our latest videos, this is basically where we look at the betting trends from some of these teams' previous games. In the last 12 games that these two teams have played against each other, Michigan State is 10-2 against the spread, which includes 5 of the last 6. In their last 6 games, the Wolverines are 5-1 against the spread, and in the Wolverines' last 42 games, the over has hit 30 times. Michigan State is 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 games as the underdog, and in their last 9 conference games, Michigan State is 1-8 against the spread. On to the betting lines now, but before we do, just keep in mind, again, I'm filming this video on Wednesday, so still a bit of time before the game on Saturday, and the lines will definitely fluctuate before then, so just keep that in mind. At the time that I'm filming this video, Michigan State is a plus 1,200 on the money line, with Michigan as a minus 3,000. Michigan opens up as 24.5-point favorites with the over-under game total at 53. I don't like Michigan State's offense as well, and I think Michigan answered a lot of the questions that we had about them last week about the player turnovers. Michigan looked really, really good on both sides of the ball. I'm definitely leaning towards Michigan. I think that Michigan will actually come close to covering the over-under by themselves. I think that they're definitely going to put up in between the 40 to 50 range. So I'm definitely going to take Michigan to cover the minus 24.5, and I'm also going to take the over 53.
So right now I'm just going to put the depth chart for each one of the two teams on the screen. I'm not going to stay up on the depth charts for too long, so if at any time you just want to pause that, feel free to go ahead. The first guy I want you to look at on Michigan is A.J. Henning. He's an incoming 4-star. Last week he had 1 rush for 6 yards and 1 catch for 14 yards. If you guys haven't watched this kid play, I definitely recommend maybe watching some highlights. This kid is definitely going to be an impact player in the future for Michigan. The other guy is Blake Corum, another incoming 4-star recruit as well. He actually had a bigger impact in the game last week. He had 1 catch for 24 yards and 5 rushes for 24 yards. If you guys haven't seen this kid play, whether in high school or in the brief stint in college, this kid is very fast. He's extremely exciting to watch and another guy to look out for. Let's flip over to Michigan State now. Michigan State doesn't have as many impactful incoming freshmen, but they do have a lot of veterans and a lot of guys who this weekend can be very impactful players. So just keep an eye out for all of those guys.
If you guys made it to this point in the video, thank you. Let me know your thoughts and game predictions down in the comment section below. If you liked today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs. We do game previews just like these for college football and the NFL on weekdays, and then on Saturdays and Sundays we do post-game shows after the games for college football and the NFL as well. So if that's something you're interested in or you like this video, make sure to stick around. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.